Namaste. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm Pamela Aaralyn. Thank you for joining my very first live webinar class for Galactic History. And we're starting today with Meet the Lyran Felines. We're going to be talking briefly about many other types of Lyrans as well, but it's just such a lot to cover. So the majority of my material today I'm well prepared for, and I've written it all out, and I'm just going to give it all to you in such a fast pace. Please do not expect to keep up. So while I am teaching this material, what I will be asking you to do is to go into your Q&A folder. You'll see it down up underneath my face here, right down there. It just says Q&A. And open that up, and as I'm speaking and teaching you about the galactic history of the Lyran Felines and then offering the messages that they have today involving life purpose, grace, and many other topics, I would like for you to begin to write your questions out starting now, because I'm just going to buzz through this super fast because I want the next hour to be spent talking about your questions to the Lyran Felines, your questions about the galactic history of Earth and the Lyran Felines, about spiritual purpose, because that's the topic that they're covering today. Their active role in the universe is connecting us to our spiritual purpose and connecting our spiritual gifts. So they are the architects of that. So anything that you have in relation to the topics of that, or anything that they discuss in their channeled messages at the end of the galactic history teachings that I share, that's time. Or anything about the race, about galactic history that comes up during the teachings, that's when you just want to go ahead and write it in the Q&A section, and I will be going through that a little bit at a time. We will be taking live questions on screen. So if you are one of those people in hour 2 of the class, around 6:05 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, an hour from now, use the raise hand feature. You'll see that on the bottom left of your screen, and you can use that to come on live. Do not do that unless you want to come on live, because then you might accidentally be put on live with me. So if you're sitting there in your pajamas and not really wanting to come on screen for the rest of the world to see, keep in mind these classes are recorded and reproduced and often sold. So don't come on screen. That's my disclaimer. Do not come on screen or say anything to me from your on-screen level that you do not want me covering in class material, and potentially that might be somewhere later, like YouTube. Okay? Just a little disclaimer there that I must say. So thank you for being here with me today. Again, there's so much to cover that I'm just going to buzz through it, give you their channeled messages, and then begin to answer your questions in part 2. Okay. Where I want to begin today in discussing the Lyran Felines is with the understanding that they are the parent race of humanity, which is why I started in this galactic history class with the Lyran Felines first, and that is my specific origin point as well. It's my favorite, so I was a little bit biased. So the felines are one of 2 primary races in our universe, and they arrived here by invitation of what I call the founders. This is the soul group, an Elohim race, or Elohim, for those of you who want to research that spelling. It's an angelic race that is spelled Elohim. They are a race of Arcturians that come from the ascended being Serapis Bey. So those were the beings who created Lyran Felines, okay? And they were obviously not an incarnated group, okay? Angelics rarely are. So beginning with that, having successfully completed the universal games, which many races do before they can incarnate, they must complete the duality-based third-dimensional games, and we call those the universal games, before they can create a planet, create a race. So being that Lyrans are the parent race of humans, as you can understand, they're pretty evolved in having already gone through all of their evolution and duality, and from that. So a group of, and this is where it all started, a group of 45 Lyran feline soul groups volunteered to come to this universe to help set up and oversee the same group that are currently incarnating into humanity today. Yes, that is me. We are what is called ambassadors. For those of you who are from the Lyran Feline Soul Group, that's what we're called, ambassadors. So Lyra, that can be considered a birthplace, I like to call Lyra the womb of the humanoid race within Earth's area of the Milky Way. So all subspecies such as Sirians, Orions, Earthlings, otherwise known as Terrans, Pleiadians, Vegans, Zeta Reticulans, Alpha Centaurians, Altarians, and so forth, Andromedans, all of them come from that race, okay? And so far as descriptions, I'm going to give you many descriptions because there are many physical types of Lyran feline beings. I've had the pleasure of incarnating into all types, and they all have their unique characteristics and purposes. I'll tell you about the main race first and what they look like. Overall, these are the Haitians, and they are a bipedal race. They're really tall. The Haitians stand between 12 and 16 feet tall. They're not small beings. They look a little bit like, for those of you who have seen the movie Avatar, whoever was the creator of that movie had something going on in their knowledge. The blue skin, with the exception of a little bit of light fuzz or fur, they missed out on that part, but the ears are very accurate. The wild hair is very accurate, normally long hair. The warrior, peaceful warrior type in general is pretty appropriate, insofar as the Haitians, which is the main race of the Lyran Felines. Okay, so they stand 12 to 16 feet tall. They're muscular normally and active. And their skin is blue and it's covered by like a soft, I don't want to call it a fur, but it is kind of a defense mechanism. It's more like a fuzz, for those of you who've held a peach, it feels a little bit like that. It's one of the interesting reasons because DNA is carried through that when Haitians come into humans, we have a little bit too much hair everywhere. That genetic thing carries on through. That's why humans often look like the Haitians and the Pascots and many of the other races of Lyran felines. So that is a defense mechanism, and the reason why it's there is because, the fur thing, that's how we got to be called the cat people or the lion people or all of those things, because when the Haitians, that specific race, left Lyra because of an intergalactic war with other reptilian beings, they had to devolve from an 11th dimensional race, which were not incarnated, into a third dimensional race. So when they began to mix species and become Haitians, they carried that through in their genetics because the sun's rays were horrendous in the Haitians. It was a nitrogen dust bowl at first. And the sun was just ridiculously harsh there for a while. So it was a protection. So they do sometimes have a lot of hair that can look a little bit like manes. That's another reason why the humans started calling the Haitians lion people or cat people. Eyes, big. They can range from blue to gold and change from blue to gold as they mature. They can also turn from like a golden brown color to gold. And then for the Haitians, it's normally brown with a little bit of a golden edge, and as they go towards their enlightenment, their eyes will change to a very light brown. And it's the same for humanoids that are currently Haitians. So their temperament, warm, loving, smart. As they mature, they get a little bit more somber, but initially with lack of spiritual maturity, Haitians are kind of feisty, for lack of a better term, passionate, charismatic. They are catalysts. That is their primary purpose. We're going to be discussing various races, but this is the dominant one. That's why we started with the Haitians. But as they mature spiritually and evolve, they can become more wisdom-based, more somber, more quiet, introspective, and gentle. But for a while, they are, at least the first half of their lives, a little bit of catalyst, a little bit passionate in their nature. So the elders of the Haitian soul groups are wise and they're revered for their wisdom. They're very tribal. Haitians and Lemurians actually were the original native races of Earth. So they're revered for compassion and clairvoyance, clairaudience, and other gifts of being shamanic healers. They have a lot of discernment and wisdom. As a race, talking about how they are in cultural family ties. They are extremely close to each other. They have a great sense of ethics, fair play, loyalty. If you make a friend out of a Haitian, you can pretty much be aware that you can keep that friend for life. They're easy to forgive. Unfortunately, a little bit naive, forgive a little bit too much, okay? Um, the females in the Haitians are revered and honored equally with males. They prefer equal status. And true to the Lyran feline way, they're all really curious, a little bit too much so. Lacking in physical fear, they love to challenge the physical paradigms, mountain climbing, ATV riding. Don't get me started on that story, but very inquisitive and challenging of the physical paradigm, which kind of gets them in trouble when they come into the human incarnated form. And they kind of feel like, yay, I'm on top of the earth. And then the next thing, having crazy little accidents. But insofar as the universal game, the founders, we discussed them earlier, they are also called the Elohim, coming through Christ consciousness. They're Arcturians. The founders gave Lyran Felines a new planet in the Lyra constellation for their home once they completed their universal games. So the felines called this planet Arian. Yep, I'll say it again, it's Arian. That's really hard. It's not the exact pronunciation nor the spelling, with Avyon or Aryon, but it's just as close as I can come because the real name cannot be translated into English. Haitian cannot be translated very, very well. It is a light language and English just doesn't do it justice. So many humans are from that planet. Many of you now are from that planet or descendants of that planet. So Arion was a paradise planet. It was very similar to Earth. It had mountains, lakes, and streams, and oceans, and clean air and clean everything. And it was a blue planet. For those of you who are having your experiences of remembering being from a blue planet, you're right on. So it was very much like present Earth environment in form, and had a variety of vegetation and life forms, particularly a lot of root vegetables. So when the felines arrived to that planet, they were initially in etheric form, and therefore they went through the stage of evolving in a physical body so that they could reside on Arion. And after millions of years, they finally evolved, into the greater race of the lion people and other felines, and began incarnating into those races and forms. As a part of that plan, a portion of the original feline stayed in etheric form to provide guidance to those incarnating. So those are the ones that call themselves Elohim today. And they would be the equivalent of your modern day Christos beings whenever they do decide to incarnate, which is rare. So remembering that Arion is a 3D planet, and they had to devolve into a 3D planet, once the etheric Lyran felines incarnated, they would fall under the veil of amnesia, and they knew this in advance. And that is a part of the workings of 3D free will, of which we were well aware. So as time passed and through many, many incarnation cycles, the felines evolved a line of beings that walked upright and retained the consciousness of their etheric counterparts, thanks to the periodic incarnations of some of the etheric felines, and DNA from a bipedal mammal that's similar to the ape that was evolving on the planet as well. I cannot really pronounce the name of that particular race. It has no translation. So with the DNA from this, I'll just call it an ape-like mammal, the felines were able to take on a more human-like body while retaining most of the facial features and other characteristics of the majority of the Haitian race. And it was from this specific crossing that it reached a certain stage that the genetic line was known as the royal line of Arion, or House of Arion, and then the word Avalon came into being. Some of this will start to sink into your intuition right now and your divine remembrance. This knowledge wakes that up. Etheric felines continue to take turns incarnating to provide not only this DNA upgrading, but teachings and trainings in higher dimensional principles lest their planet, their other ancestors, their planet-bound brothers and sisters would get stuck in the non-sentient animal incarnation cycle, because that's how it went, animal to upper forms. So as you can be aware at this point, the felines evolved on Arian in much the same manner as humans evolved here on Earth in the pattern of evolution. And the only difference is that humans didn't get stuck in the animal cycle. And we'll go more into that later. In times, the conscious Lyran felines grew large enough in number, take on the responsibilities of what I now call planetary guardians, of their home world. And they continue to evolve and eventually develop technology for space travel and then warp technology. Their brothers and sisters continue to act as guides, the founders. And many amongst them became geneticists. That's a feline specialty, by the way. That's why so many of you who come in as Lyran feline humanoids have channeling abilities through medical mediumship and a strong interest in healing. That's where that comes from your Lyran ancestors. So many became geneticists and began to develop life forms of various kinds for planets and stars in the universe. And some amongst them became great space explorers and scientists. Science is a big exploration of Lyrans. And it was during this stage in their development that they would turn their attention, to that bipedal mammal that they felt they owed so much to, and began a programming of genetic crossing and upgrading that would give them what humans call a soul, and in the process create a new species that would become known as the humans. So after crossings and genetic upgrades, what I call the Adamic human was made, from what many religions call Adam. I just like to call it the Adamic human, just for reference point. And there were two strains. The red-headed strain became the more outgoing and energetic, and then the platinum blonde strain became the more gentle-natured and introspective. And after thousands of years of continued careful crossbreeding and genetics, the Lyran feline/human hybrids began to be more common in the royal line of the felines and the House of Arian than the purebred felines were. And this was the original plan. This was not a mistake. And after thousands of years, the purebred felines would become the ancient ancestors of the humans, with only their genetic traits as a reminder of the connection between them. Through the genetic relationship between the felines and humans, a lot had been forgotten, by modern man, but the felines remained in the consciousness as more of a regal creature, and they remain loving and supportive guardians of their genetic offspring, the humans, to this day. And they have continued in this role throughout time and throughout all dimensions of the universal game. So for those of you who want to contact, say, the head of the felines, his name is Lyran, and it's spelled Devin. You'll notice a little bit of this light language coming through in these teachings. So when you start to branch through in light language, which is a huge trait of the Lyrans, healing through sound and words and speech and writing and light language and song. Lyran is the reigning patriarch of what I call the ninth royal house of Arian and Anu. So Anu is what Lyrans call humans. You'll start to notice some of Edgar Casey's work coming through these teachings, because he was the first Arcturian from the founders to connect to the Lyran felines. And he called this group Anu, A-N-U. So based on the age of the suns and the planets in our galaxy, it was decided at a certain point that human life form was to be created, in the Lyran system. And the human race lived there for approximately 40 million years through evolution. And the orientation of the human race in Lyra was agricultural in nature, primarily. And apparently we were very plentiful and abundant and lived in peace for great periods of time. So let's go back to another one of the Lyran races that actually possessed the Nordic features, the ones that I was discussing as the Elohim. They also come through specifically through Serapis Bay and the Christ consciousness. When they came through and started out in Lyra, they were known as Pleiadians. And then they created, the planet, the star system, the Pleiades. So that's originally what that was. And they're described in many religious texts and religious traditions, both on Earth and around the galaxy. And due to the Lyran's role in the genesis of the human presence in the galaxy, the Lyrans can understandably be argued to have the most detailed understanding of human origins and galactic history. They're also described as galactic historians for the human species. And it can be inferred that the Lyrans help in disseminating the truth about the evolution of human races in the galaxy, and they have a deep understanding of galactic human culture and of the human spirit without the perception of separation. So Lyrans are very non-dualistic primarily and lacking in judgment. So let's describe them a little further. So I'd say that beings from Lyra have an affinity for origins, ancient histories, science, healing, especially shamanism and ancient tribal modalities, especially alchemy. Okay, so the original alchemists of the galactic systems, Lyrans. So they would be useful to you to understand your past if you want to transform it, because they like to kind of bend and morph time into the present. So they'll take the past and transmute it into the present, or take the future to transform the now. So this is what they do. They are alchemists of time. So as you understand your past and your origins, you may be able to consciously go back and pattern by pattern peel off the layers of the onion, find your true divine nature, and Lyrans are really good guides for that. So they'd be excellent guides in that process, and their psychological, this process for humanity of understanding human motivations and human history and how that all came to be without judging it. So in conclusion, their main activities are in disseminating the unique history of the human race in the galaxy, assisting in understanding human motivations and potentials, and being a catalyst to alchemize so that there will be no further separation. So they just dissect duality and rip it all apart, basically. Compassionately, though, unlike some of the other races, Lyrans are known for their compassion and their lack of judgment. And the global solutions that they can provide us include accurate information, understanding of history and discovering the human essence. They're really good at diplomacy and conflict resolution, global education, things like that. So throughout history, Earth has been the stage of many acts in the play of humanoid galactic history. And many extraterrestrial civilizations have walked the face of Earth. I'm sure for those of you here, that's not surprising. They're both humanoid and non-humanoid races, and they have done so long before man even existed. So together with mankind, they have written the history of this planet. Therefore, it's important to realize that you can't really understand the history of mankind or the history of Earth until you are aware of the part that was played by these extraterrestrial civilizations. And this means that you cannot understand the history of mankind if you don't know that Homo sapiens was not entirely the product of a natural evolution, but was in fact the result of a crossbreed of genes of Terran primates and humanoid aliens. Not that Darwin was wrong or that there's no such thing as evolution, but Homo sapiens appeared too soon, too suddenly, with too many distinguishing features to be the result of a natural evolution. So for those of you who've ever wondered why scientists didn't succeed in finding the least trace of the missing link between Homo sapiens and its predecessors, now you will understand why. So to fully understand this galactic play, if you will, and its players, it's also important to realize that Earth's galactic history is merely one part, one stage. We're tiny, in comparison to the bigger play of humanoid galactic history. And in the pages on humanoid galactic history that I've seen throughout the Akasha, you'll find that the cradle of humanoid civilization stood in the constellation of Lyra. And from there, like we were discussing earlier, several humanoid species spread throughout our galaxy long before Homo sapiens even existed, and Earth was thus visited by humanoid races from Lyra, Vega, Sirius, Orion, the Pleiades, and all of them established colonies on this planet, on Earth. So at first, only small groups of aliens settled down on Earth, and later on, members of the Sirius A and Sirius B constellation, I call this the Sirian group. That's a group of extraterrestrials from Sirius, Orion, and the Pleiades came in far larger numbers. So at a given moment in time, members of this Sirian group started needing workers to assist them in colonizing Earth. And through genetic manipulation, they created mankind by blending their own DNA with the DNA of Earth primates and the predecessors of man, which was at the time what we called Neanderthal. From that moment, Earth becomes the scene of constant disputes between mainly two groups of alien civilizations. On one hand, they're the Sirians, joined by some Vegans and some renegade Pleiadians and some Orion civilizations. And then on the other hand, there are the Pleiadians and the Lyrans, joined by other various evolutions of Orion civilizations. And they're similar, but they're fighting because they're really not used to third-dimensional free will and duality and this whole right-wrong essence and what's good, what's bad. It was a little confusing for our first-time effort. So the fights nearly always were over mankind, and on several occasions they interfered in our history. And these stories of these interventions can be found in all ancient mythologies, especially Egyptian mythology. The ones that speak about how the gods keep on meddling in human affairs and keep on having fights amongst each other over these interventions. Quite often these mythological stories mention snake people, which usually is a reference to the Syrians, whereas bird, eagle, or cat people are a reference to Lyrans, Pleiadians, and Andromedans, otherwise known as Ra'ans. The Solarians, there are many, many, many names that humans have given that group. Blue Avians was a name that humans gave that group. So that's kind of the history of that. And humans have so many names for the same thing. So I'm trying not to keep this confusing. However, sometimes when the humans say the snake people, that can be in reference to a third group of aliens called the Draconian group, otherwise what humans know as reptilians. So even though there are indications that these aliens too have been around on this planet for tens of thousands of years, they've only really recently started playing an active role in history again. So it is genetically believed that the aliens intervened 2 times in the evolution of human species. A first time would have happened probably approximately 400,000 years ago. And some researchers believe this led to the creation of Neanderthal, as discussed earlier. A second intervention would have happened approximately 200,000 years ago, leading to the creation of Homo sapiens. So this second time, more alien DNA was used, yet at the same time, our DNA strands were reduced from 12 to 2. And this was done in order to prevent us from overtaking our alien creators on the evolutionary scale, as evolution seems to happen faster on Earth. And it seems that they underestimated DNA's inherent desire and power for evolution, as our awareness has awesomely and drastically increased, and we seem to be catching up with them anyway. So apart from all the groups mentioned above, there are higher dimensional and more advanced civilizations that keep an eye on everything that's going on here too. And every once in a while, they too have made their presence known. In my specific lifetimes as a Haiti and Lyran feline being, I remember the Haitis was a planet of pink grass, purple skies, and a big blue sun. The buildings and architecture were mostly dome-shaped, and there were many crystal cities. Energy was primarily crystalline, and DNA was crystalline. Also, there were massive species of insectoids, butterflies as big as vultures. They're rainbow colored, fish, like what we would know as just a regular rainbow trout would be 10 times that size, in the Haitis and on Lyra. So such a planet was this the Haitian planet in particular, where I'm from originally, was destroyed in a pretty brutal intergalactic war. And that is when Lyran Felines became defensive spiritual warriors and catalyst. So my Syrian incarnation, for those of you who are curious, was on a planet with two suns. One was blue, one was yellow. It was interesting, the grass there was purple and blue, and the sky was kind of a combination of what you might know as green and pink, with some colors that don't even really relate to human reference points that I can't explain because there's no, my human brain doesn't compute. So I was one of the Lyran Feline women there in that time, and I was a Galactic Federation teacher who taught all types of children, from reptilian to Lyran feline beings, and especially children. Back to the history, there are many feline humanoids in the universe, but it's good to know that the most popular and original genetic strain of feline humanoids were the lion people. So the lion people are a soul group that are exceptionally benevolent, empathic, highly intelligent, divine creator beings. They're also immensely physically strong, and they can be really great galactic warriors to have on your side when they have to be, although they're not offensive. If you push them, they can be like cornered animals. The only battles that they fight is either to protect themselves, their children, or other beings in the universe that would appear to be helpless. So they come through with the essence of saint mentality primarily. And within the lion people, there are also tiger people, panther people, cheetah people, leopard people, lynx people, and other exotic cat people, which resemble nothing like I've seen on Earth. An example of this is the strain of feline humanoids, which have cat features but possess triangular markings, especially on their face. And these are the ones that are blue and colored, and they are called Haitians. They're the more unusual looking ones that don't exactly look like cats or human, but something really indescribable. Humans have also liked to call them blue avians. So you can see all these little connecting links here from other historians and other teachings, hopefully. And I'm just trying to pull all of this together in a way that makes sense really, really quickly, because we only have like 30 more minutes of this teaching before I take you live. So the Haitians, otherwise known as the cat people, originally arrived from another universe with a group of bird people that were called blue avians. And these two races went on to create other races in the universe together. Most notably, the feline people created humans in the constellation of Lyra. So humans were there some 8 million years ago. And the bird people had created reptilian humanoids many years earlier. So forgive my brief digression, but the lion people, and when I say lion people, I include all strains of feline humanoids who are variations of the lion people, eventually settled in Sirius once the intergalactic war began in Lyra, and they were very brutally invaded and had to leave as refugee beings and create other planets. So they settled in the Hyades, they settled in Sirius, Pleiades, Andromeda. You see where I'm going with this. This is how all these races got started. But eventually they did settle in Sirius after the end of this very brutal galactic war between reptilian humanoids and bird humanoids, which resulted in the devastation of the humans' home planet in Lyra. So all humans were originally created in Lyra. And during their galactic travels, the lion people had colonized other worlds, most notably in the Pleiades. Strong ties with the Pleiadians for that reason. The lion people eventually colonized a planet that orbited the great Sirius A star in the constellation of Canis Major. And on this planet of great transcendental magnificence, they very joyfully and tranquilly basked in, a very divine, picturesque planet. It was just the most beautiful thing that I could possibly describe to you. Their society was a world of peace, benevolence, and understanding. There was no wars, no sickness, no disease, no perversion, greed, or avarice, or any of the darker qualities which are often found on Earth. And the lion people, who sought to share their divinity with others, helped to form the Galactic Federation with various galactic humans some 4.5 million years ago. being the good-natured beings that they are, Lyran Felines did not want to kind of keep their, godly way of living to one planet. As I said, their desire to share their love and their benevolence with others resulted in them doing just that. And so many lion people eventually traveled to Earth approximately 1 million years ago. During such a time, Earth had been invaded by reptilians from the Draconian Empire, and a war ensued between the felines and the reptilians again, and the reptilians were driven underground. However, many humans had willingly turned to the duality of that nature, into a dark nature, and had brought about their own destruction, hence the demise of Lemuria and Atlantis some 13,000 years ago. As the humans had generally brought such darkness upon themselves, they had to collectively experience the karmic ramifications and play out of their own demise as they have for the last 13,000 years. Despite this, the lion people still worked with humans who sought to better themselves both spiritually and physically, as did galactic humans who were closer comrades of the lion people. The evidence for the lion people can be found in Egyptian hieroglyphics, statues, stories of Egyptian gods and goddesses. Some notable examples of this are the great feline human goddesses Bastet, and her lion son god Mihos, and other Egyptian examples of lion people are Sekhmet, Wajet, and Tefnut, and Ninhursag as well. All of the Hathors, those are the females. The Hathors are a lineage of Lyran Felines that were created in Egypt and even further evolved. So this evidence can be found with, with modern day experiences too. I'd like to acquaint you with the brief overview of this substantiating evidence for the existence of the lion people in many, many races. And I say evidence, obviously, just in the sense of confirmation, in your intuition. And I'm going to do this by bringing in a being that is known as Kai, who is one of my right-hand, supervisors from the Hades. So we'll start with what he has to say that I channeled this morning, and I'm going to read to you what he says. And here we go. Once upon a time, there was, still is, and will be for eons, a solar system that you, in your inner time, have named Sirius, after its major visible star. Over vast periods of inner time, there have been changes in both the stars and planets in this binary system. But my tale concerns one particular era when a race of beings dwelled on one small planet. As you can see, this system at present, there are two suns, one small and one large, and this was not always so. There was a time when the smaller star was a yellow sun, not unlike your own luminary, and it was this star sun that was orbited by the planet which our species developed. And in this cool, well-irrigated, and highly verdant land, there evolved a race of beings whom, for want of a better name, we shall call Paschats. And he's spelling that P-A-S-C-H-A-T-S. Our days and nights, however, were very different from yours. We had periods, call them days if you like for better reference, that were moderately light and bright depending on the position of the second star sun before it collapsed. There were other very bright days indeed during the light of the blue-white star sun, when we were often unable to leave our homes, and other periods of great darkness where everything withdrew into a long sleep or hibernation. I am from a tribe or group known as the Caridel. Pronouncing that's hard, it's like Caridel. There were 4 basic tribes or races on my planet, each having its own specific role or duty. And as we all understood the principles of archetypal expression and the coming and going of the psyche or essence fragment, there were no bad relations or feelings of resentment between the races. The Caridel were rulers and philosophers. The Oretheta were warriors and protectors. The Peachi were creative artists, artisans, skilled workers. And the Aeta were the general folk who just fit in anywhere and were very, very strong physically. Our race evolved from a specific cosmic impulse, which produces a specific evolutionary strain or genotype. This primary impulse formulated the genetic code that shaped us into the species that we ultimately became. For your visualization, the nearest description would be a feline genus, appearing as a cross between one of your domestic cat and the lion family, but our features were more refined. Our jaws are less elongated, our ears less rounded than your lion's. We stand erect on two legs, as taller than yourselves, our bodies having been adapted to this posture over a long period of time. The males of our species are maned, but not our females. Our paws have also evolved to a more useful shape over long periods of adaptation. And in answer to the question I see forming in your mind, yes, we do have tails. We were distinguishable by our color and eyes. My tribe were brownish or fawn in color with bright blue eyes. The warriors were orange-eyed and sandy in hue, like your lions or marmalade casts. The artists were pale white or grayish and green or turquoise-eyed, while the strong folk were a mixture of all shades and often striped. When we first started our course of evolution, we were fur-covered, but later we clothed ourselves for decoration rather than modesty. Our planet was very sparsely inhabited. Only certain parts of it were warm enough to live in. One of these belts of vegetation was quite lush, while the other was similar in parts to the temperature of Northern Europe. Our bodies had evolved to accommodate the temperatures encountered on our native planet, so we managed well. The Lion Man would choose to explain to you today that we were great friends with another race of beings who lived on another planet as the Lion People's solar system. There were a race of crystallized humanoids who came from a planet called Ishna. He's spelling that I-S-H-N-A. Eventually, the Lion people migrated to the Crystal People's planet after there were problems caused from one of the suns on the Lion people's homeworld. There were changes in the atmosphere which affected vocal cords of Lion people. Such changes caused the Lion people to become more telepathic and channeling in nature. The Lion people are immensely strong beings capable of bending even steel, but they're well-grounded and creative. The crystal beings are scientific, intellectual channels, and also creative. It is stated that we do not consume meat, and there are more mobile plants on the planet as well as wise trees, and the soil was green. So here is a description based on other beings in the universe. He moves into a different collective. Yep, these are the Pascats. This is the leader of the Pascats called, it's spelled like Devin, like D-E-V-I-N, but it's pronounced Derian. He states, there are indeed those who look in from other time zones, some out of mild curiosity. Others, like ourselves, are anxious to be of assistance, and a few are of less kindly intent. We do not have close communication with all of these intelligences, but we do know the dolphin people and what you call the lizard people from the Capella Aregia region, amongst others. Like ourselves, the latter often visited your planet thousands of years ago, and even before we did, but their efforts to help the species existing there in those times failed, which greatly distressed them. The evolutionary path was corrected with passing of the Saurians, however, and Saurians are benign and gentle beings, but their evolutionary type is so far removed from your own that they could appear frightening to your people. Now, Saurians is also what humans call Solarians. This is back to me now. I'm sorry to go back and forth, but that's the Ra and Sol group, the Blue Avians, just so that you know what other people are calling Saurians. So he continues and he states, now the crystal people are very beautiful by your standards of beauty and would not, were you to meet them, present a fearful picture. And I can hear you asking me now, what about Pascats? When the time comes for our time zones to intermingle, those who are around then would meet a fine-looking, handsome bunch of felines with a special sense of humor that is particularly to our kind. It's not a cruel humor that brings smiles at the expense of another's tears. Anyone who enjoys felines would like Pascats. They are quite witty, and I think that you would consider us cuddly by your standards, at least. He's cute. So in sequel, I can call the lion people the Pascats, the Hydians, and the crystal people. And this is authored by one of your famous galactic historians known as Murray Hope. He's shifting a little bit. He states, this is a quote from Some of the Galactic History of your human historian Murray Hope. And he quotes beginning here. We have viewed your media material as shown in many parts of your world and would say without doubt that the accent is more on chaos than on order. In fact, we would suggest that there is a glorification of all things chaotic, which has an adverse influence on immature essence fragments in particular, but also affects those who are on the verge of taking their leave of the fields of cosmic childhood. In case you're not aware of it, your media actually programs you by dictating the norm or what those in control of the systems feel should be standard behavior or paradigms. Therefore, those essence fragments that are ready to raise to the next stage in their cosmic development feel obliged to stay at the lower frequency for fear of being thought odd or different. It is no use my picking on any particular moral or ethic, as I am not your species anyway, nor have my own people ever been a part of an evolutionary stream that is sick in this nature. But the glorification of vice, deviations of all kind, violence, cruel competition, the degrading of your females, and many, many more attitudes and practices that would not form part of your norm were your species and the planet as a whole on its current evolutionary path are symptomatic of the malaise which blinds you to the light of cosmic truth. And I would not waste my channel's time outlining the way you would all feel were you cured of this. I fear it would be dismissed as boring and no fun at all and not natural. And I regret to say that compared with the behavior of hominoids of similar evolutionary status in other parts of the universe, it is you who are unnatural, since you delight in abusing natural cosmic laws. He stops there. That might be good because he is incredibly brutal in his truth. This is why I don't channel Debbie on very often. So the next feline humanoid who we're going to quote is what I call a Hydian, and she's from Sirius A, and she works on an intergalactic ship for endangered animals in the universe. She's called Tashaba, Tashaba, and she mentioned to me that the prospect of Earthlings mingling with extraterrestrials and the changing of human genetics is interesting. And she would like for you to read a book. And she's going to quote from that book. And the book is Songs of the Arcturians. It is authored by Patricia Pereira. Hope I got that right. It's Periera. She said I didn't get it right. So she's going to quote to you something from this author's book because she appreciates the perspective. And here it is. If you closely monitor the skies for signs of increasing starship activity, you will be exceedingly gratified. Earth herself glimmers ever so much brighter now that the melodious tones of her pulsating energies are beginning to adjust to the more delicate vibrato of the sweet celestial hums. And this is in this book, by the way. The author, Patricia Pereira, is channeling Tashaba, just so you know. So we'll continue with Tashaba. I speak in my realization of that which is absolute. I note, too, a dawning future and visualize the people coming upon the starships. I am able to see clearly that there will come a time when we will welcome you amongst us. And by the loving touch that is, I do embrace the universe of my birth. By the sparkling lights of the galaxy that is my home, do I send my delight forth as a gift to you. DNA patterns basic to all planetary life are really third-dimensional projections of fourth-dimensional, ethereally aligned light. As a physical being, your primary tendency is to view yourself as something that can be seen, felt, and heard, a specialized assortment of bone, sinew, and the like. Nevertheless, the basic ingredient from which you are formed is essence of soul. You are a spiritual being temporarily residing in a physical body, maintained by an astral body, an emotional body, a causal body, a mental body, and a succession of continuously refining elements quite beyond our ability to adequately describe to you. DNA helix strands are the glue that attaches your physical body's cells to your light energies or spiritual substance. Your physical body is patterned on a reflection of your spirit body. Does it not stand to reason that your human body was fashioned upon structures of light? If you can view yourself in this manner, you will understand that alternative DNA is not a weird or mysterious happening, but simply an initial step to prepare you to ascend into resonations of refined light. The miraculous feat of providing a spiritual being with a material body is accomplished by downloading etheric DNA graphics into a sort of third-dimensional holographic printout. To aid in understanding the dynamics of this unique process, simply imagine an extraterrestrial humanoid figure shaped from light. When this image is clearly defined, surround your creation with a physical body, and behold, you have created a human being. A human being with purposes, with a mission, with an alignment, and with goals that are based upon your free will creation. But mind you, your purpose, as we get to this today, is coming through your heart center, and it should be based upon feeling, not based upon reward, abundance in money, abundance in love, abundance in anything other than your feeling state. Your mission is your role. It is the hat that you wear, and it is a choice as well that you will find when the synchronicities align to show you as such. Your alignment is what you create in your third dimensional all the way to your sixth dimensional mastery of abundance when you follow your mission and your purpose. Your goals are simply things that keep you on track in between. Okay. We have another message from the collective of the Lyran people regarding activation of purpose, and it is rather long. Bear with me, this is the collective of the Lyran people. They are also called the Elohim. If you follow an inquiry or exploration to its furthest point in the available resources of your planet and are still unable to fulfill your purpose in your pursuit, you will initiate a stimulus into the universe until you have exhausted your local resources. However, your stimulus is in play in the world as if it were a ball in a racquetball game. It continues to bounce off all available walls and angles until it comes back to you with what you need, or until it develops what you need from a series of plays. If what you are seeking is beyond the limits of the court, you get to bounce it off the universe. You do not have to send a call into the cosmos intentionally. It will happen anyway. Hence, the seeker of life purpose is not faulty in her understanding, but the seeker does need to understand that with time, the synchronicities will be shown within the innate goodness of her nature. It's the nature of inquiry that stimulates response when you are questioning from the frequency of wonder. Any being in the universe can stimulate a response from any or all others. And in this way, all knowledge, wisdom, and love in the universe is available to you in order to attach to your purpose. If you're seeking answers about purpose, you need to ask questions and be able to receive a response wherever it may come from, even if you do not believe its source, and even if you believe you are the source. It could come from the grocer, the radio, the garden, or the cosmos, or your own mind. If you diffuse the focus of an inquiry with many simultaneous inquiries, you may succeed in transmitting several or all of them. It is unlikely, however, that you will know which feedback is coming into your life in response to which inquiry. If you abandon an inquiry or diffuse its focus with impatience, anger, confusion, depression, your stimulus can lose its broadcast clarity, which means you lose connection with your purpose. When this happens, your question or need does not transmit to us discernibly. You're most effective when you focus on one discovery at a time and just allow the response to unfold. How do you allow? For instance, if you struggle in the ocean and you float, this is allowance. This brings all synchronicities to its divine fruition of your nature. Simple quietude and focus will maximize your broadcasts and reception clarity, and this is why meditative, contemplative, and dream states provide such fertile ground for dialogue with the universe about your purpose. When you become well practiced at internal quietude and focus, you will be able to maintain conscious interaction with the universe while even engaged in the noise and activity of your world, hence your ultimate mastery of purpose. It takes much less time for your stimulus to reach us than it does for our response to reach you. If our response conforms to the time and space of your reality, it takes time for the universe to inform you through practical experience, and this is why you receive numerical symbologies first. It takes no time at all for the universe to inform you through your contemplative, meditating, or feeling experience. So if you are ready for this discovery, open your heart centers today and trust. Getting ready, however, can sometimes take years if your negative core belief systems override the openness of your heart centers. When your stimulus moves through the universe, it is not a general call for assistance from any being who happens to be free at the moment. The stimulus you send is specific to the essence of your inquiry. And once a being who embodies the full realization of what you're seeking will be impacted by your call. Each being in the universe embodies and expresses a unique frequency that is attached to purpose. And these frequencies are not handed out like social security numbers that come to life when you do. They are you. Each of us in the universe, our frequency is our first, most essential and eternal identity. So to be a unique frequency is to have a unique value. Each being in the universe has a unique value in both the mathematical and conceptual sense. There is no duplication. Each frequency and value has the capacity to manifest in infinite ways. And since human beings are also universal beings, you share these origins of frequency and value, and this means you have the capacity to manifest your purpose in infinite ways. In other words, there is no should and there is no one way. While you are individuated by your own unique frequency and value, you are also a component of larger collectives of frequencies and values. Humanity often refers to its collectivity as the collective unconscious or the human collective unconscious, when in fact each individual entity on Earth is a component of numerous collective entities. You are a component of your soul collective, your ethnic collective, your gender collective, your species collective, your planetary collective, and ultimately universal collective. The simultaneity of your individuality and your collectivity is just one demonstration of the capacity that you have to express yourselves in numerous states concurrently within purpose. As children of the universe, you by nature are multidimensional beings, even when your awareness is focused in the 3 spatial dimensions and one time dimension currently known to you as Earth. All beings and life forms in the universe are able to interact with each other, no matter how many dimensions we are focused in, no matter what state of being we inhabit, no matter where we are in time and space. And what makes this possible? Every being in the universe embodies every frequency in the universe, and this provides each being with an inherent intercom for communicating with all other beings. While the whole is embodied in each of us, each being has a different frequency and value that is central to his beingness. In the greater universe, we call the frequency that is unique central to each of us our axial value. And this axial value of each being governs its stimuli, responses, magnetism, and coherence. Since no 2 of you have the same value as their axis, no 2 beings configure the universe in the same way. The axial value of each being organizes all other frequencies relative to itself, and as a result, each one of us is the universe, constellated in a unique way, with a unique purpose. Each being's axial value lives as a supporting value within all beings. This means my integrity and self-realization intrinsically informs and supports yours. and your integrity and self-realization intrinsically informs and supports mine. This is for the relationship to each of us, to all others, regardless of our state of being or location in the universe. The trees, the star, the mineral kingdom, and the non-local beings can communicate with you because they are already within you as an integral part of your being. All of us are empowered in this way. Your axial value travels with you as you. Wherever you go, you constellate that value. And you are its tuning fork, its artist, its agent, its advocate, its champion. You are not aware that you are taking a particular value with you everywhere you go because you have never been any place it was not. What enters a room when you do? What diminishes when you are gone? You might be the last to know the value that makes you you. Others sense it, but they can rarely name it. It tunes them up when you arrive, and it recedes within them or reintegrates with increased amplitude when you depart. Those of us who are facilitators of interdimensional communications have the opportunity to go anywhere in the universe that our frequency or axial value is called for to fortify or catalyze consciousness. There are many ways to answer a call, as there are needs. On this occasion, I have chosen to answer my call by being born on Earth as a human being, to bring my consciousness here in a package called my self. And this is a higher impractical approach for most universal beings and purposes. A lifetime seems to take so long once you're living it, and one has to be there the whole time. And in answering this call, however, it is a perfect means for bringing my frequency and value to life on Earth. When a single individual or collective reaches us with a stimulus, we respond to the call spontaneously, just as you do when your telephone rings. Usually, you do not know who is calling and what they're calling about. As universal beings dedicated to interdimensional self-realization, we know we are being called upon to provide the unique frequency we embody to someone, somewhere, who is aspiring to realize that value. And to accomplish this, we merge our consciousness with the consciousness of the person transmitting the stimulus. If you are the one sending the call, the universal being who embodies what you are seeking merges with your consciousness. Once this merge has occurred, you will find that you have access to greater levels of understanding and to pathways of thought that further your course of discovery. Since the idea of human consciousness has been introduced, it is best to define it. It is the capacity to focus, direct, and make meaningful the self-awareness of your beingness. Once you merge, and once our merge with you occurs, it does not align with you in a way that you call enlightenment. We do not give you consciousness. Rather, we respond to your stimulus by making available to you avenues of purpose, avenues of understanding, choices. So for those of you who struggle, that you feel that your purpose is not readily accessible to you in your local reality system, through such relationships of stimulus and response, all states of being and all planets and dimensions have equal access to purpose within consciousness. Therefore, whether you use universal resources and how you use them, which gifts you access, are entirely up to you. So how do you know if you are connected and if your universal self is helping you? Without apparent explanation, you find you have gained clarity, insight, or inspiration that perhaps you simply did not have previously. And that is it. You inexplicably rise above the emotionality, complexity, or invisibility of an issue, gaining a more mature overview. In other words, you trust. And this is the foundation of grace. This is a frequent demonstration of cosmic assistance. More drastically and less often, universal synchronicities will engage you internally in a moment alteration of reality. And because this kind of experience informs you subjectively, it is usually difficult to validate, duplicate, or communicate to others. You can gain this inspiration or insight by reflecting on the experience, but the alchemy lives in the moment of its happening. In instances where our response to your inquiry is best provided through life experiences, we merge our consciousness with yours so that you may perceive your experiences from a fresh perspective. A merge can briefly liberate your rhythms and frequency patterns to allow an enlightening alteration of reality, and you call this an awakening. You will see new things or perceive old things in a new way. And in these instances, our merge optimizes your experience. When these breakthroughs occur, the universal being you are communicating with may be your own higher self, but you are calling them something external, such as angel, guide, etc. But it is your own soul who holds the accumulated wisdom of all experience in which you have ever participated, but you have valued and defined as angel, guide, archangel, etc. When you are feeling overwhelmed or inadequate, you tend to think you need help from something greater than yourself rather than from your greater self. And more often than not, your answer or guidance will come from your own knowing self, your soul. And this, my friends, is what activates your purpose. When you do not believe in your knowing self, or when the frequency you are seeking, oh, we're getting feedback? I knew they'd eventually blow up my code. Okay, I don't know where I need to leave off because I knew they'd eventually blow up my sound. So let me start over from where they were. When you do not believe in your knowing self, or when the frequency you are seeking cannot be effectively communicated from your knowing self, the universe being who can best catalyze your discovery is the one who merges with you. And again, you call these spirit guides, angels, etc. In most instances, we do not need to identify your exact location in time and space in order to respond to your stimulus. Without pause, we just allow our consciousness to be magnetized wherever it is needed. And in this way, we assist other beings in realizing within themselves the values that we embody because we are you. Since we know ourselves to have integrity everywhere in the universe, we do not have to know where you are going and what you are doing to feel secure in this connection. This is a great advantage to universal consciousness. Only occasionally do we who support you from the cosmos know the content of our merge with you. Our experience is more energetic than cognitive, and the only difference between us and you is that we believe in the power of this cognition. Frequently, we deduce the content of a merge in which we have, particularly by observing a change that seems to have our signature on it, and this has probably happened to you. Imagine finding yourself preoccupied for a few weeks with thoughts about interactive computer programs that could help people learn empathy. This is a highly specific and unexplainable random theme. Months later, your local news reports on a newly developed computer program designed to develop empathy. How amazing, how ironic, how curious, you may think. Unless you understand the workings of the universe, it is unlikely you would think, I helped work that idea through as a synchronicity to my purpose. I responded as a part of a random sample, or I picked this up on cosmic news while it was in development. But you did, and this is you activating and following your purpose. Okay, that Elohim group left. Let's pull in the one that follows them. This is a bit of a bonus. This is a message that was channeled through the Elohim and the Seraphim several months ago. And I'm going to read this one back to you because I just felt it applied. And you'll see why in a moment. Here we are. We are pleased and happy that you've called for us. You may not be consciously aware that you called for us, but we are here nevertheless. We are the creative force of the source, what you call God. We are the unmanifest force behind all form in the entire universe. We are pure life force, pure creative impulse. We are the breath of God. Every being and every entity in the universe is sourced from our center. We created your essence, your soul, your God self. Pause. For those of you who don't know, we are channeling this soul group that calls themselves the architects. They are born of the Serapis Bay being that you know as Christ consciousness, and they are Arcturian. Now we can proceed. I felt the need to explain that. We are the energy that makes your heart beat in rhythm. We are your urge to breathe. We are an essential part of your being. We do not ask that you worship us, and we do not ask that you see us outside of yourselves. Go to your very center. We are there, but we are sleeping as you imagine it. We are not awake inside of your physical human bodies as of yet, but there will come a day when we will awaken in the very cells of your body, and the energy of our life force will ripple and vibrate within the very atoms of your being. And when this day arrives, you will access to the creative aspect of your presence and of your being. Please know that you have purpose. Do you know the very extent of your creative power? Do you know what you are capable of? This world in which you lived, you created. You are the gods of this world. This galaxy in which the planet sits, you created. This universe in which you live is by your design, under our supervision. You were once as we are now. You were once Elohim, but you have forgotten these times. You will remember and awaken, as if awakening from a deep sleep. Little by little, you will remember and feel the truth of our words. Stars were birthed from the essence of your being. You sang the song of creation, and the universe came to be through you. We would like to talk to you about this energy that you call grace. Grace is a frequency, and it's possible to bring the energy of grace into your physical body, for it moves through the gaps that separate molecules. Grace can move through anything, like a cool breeze on a summer's day. It can also clear pain from your body. All pain is chosen, whether it manifests emotionally, mentally, or physically. Much of the pain you experience in your body is karmic. It came about through the laws of cause and effect. Grace can give you instant healing, clear your karma, remove negativity from the very cells of your body. It can also align the four bodies, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Grace has not been present on your planet for a very long time. In the times of Christ, a great wave of grace swept across your planet. It removed many layers of karmic unpatterning. And within your time frame, it would have been impossible to remove this karma through any other means. The Christ consciousness body was used to hold and channel this frequency on the planet. And Christ, in many forms, brought a great service to you as human beings. In this year, it will be possible for everyone to access and anchor the energy of grace. This is the beginning of the age of grace. Through your request, it will channel through your body and radiate out to affect the surrounding space. Move into prayer, affirmation, intention, etc. Prayer will have a much more powerful effect if intended with the energy of grace, as does meditation, healing, and affirmations. Many humans on the planet are looking for miracles, instant transformation. However, up until this point in time, it has been very difficult to achieve this. As these waves of grace sweep the planet, miracles and instant transformation will indeed occur. And it is now possible to instantly transform all karma on the planet if your belief systems allow it to be so. Creator does not want you to live in karmic cycles any longer. Creator does not wish for you to feel purposeless. The purpose is simply created by you, and it is not wrong. It is your soul that chooses to carry on this wheel of karma over and over, but now it is ceasing. It is not necessary or required any longer. Many of you believe that you must suffer for the things you did in past lives. Please forgive yourselves. Forgiveness is the foundation of grace. You have a tendency to not forgive yourselves, and you hold on to negative beliefs, and then you insist upon the necessity of your pain. Grace will bring you choice. There will be two realities occurring on your planet, one of karmic nature and one of grace. After these most recent experiences of the eclipse, of the hurricane, of many cycles prior, those who insist on suffering karmic cycles, the reality will remain, but those who can find forgiveness for themselves within their heart and unite together will now move into the reality and energy of grace. You are calling this the new earth. They will free themselves to be the God selves they know themselves to be. And this is coming now based upon these catalytic events. You must ask yourself, why would you want to suffer? Why would you choose the hard way? Why do you choose the rocky path? Why do you not choose to ride the wave of grace instead and trust that purpose will be revealed to you through exploration, play, joy, through what you call failure? It is simply learning. When you find negative feelings and fears arising in your body and in your mind, call in the energy of grace. It will ripple through a negative patterning that holds your emotions, and the transformation will speed up. There is a time frame for the transformation of your planet. Your gods and goddesses have a design, and there's not enough time for you to process all of your karma, and that is why waves of grace have been made available to you to speed up this process. And the beginning of this energy starts now in 2017. The waves will increase in intensity. First, they will be gentle and subtle. They will raise the energy in the physical body. And as the atoms align themselves with the energy of grace, you will be more and more capable of holding this energy in your bodies. You are beautiful beings. Please forgive yourselves and love yourselves and come home. Come home to you, for we are you, and we welcome you with open arms. The choice is yours. There are many souls that will not choose the quickened way, but as you do, you will be an example. As we said, the energy of grace is a very high frequency, and it will take much dedication and focus to hold this frequency in your bodies. There will be people who reach up in the year 2017 that will open up to work with this energy. Experiment. There's no wrong or right way to achieve healing through grace and to thereby achieve your purpose. For some, the energy of breath will be important. Some will channel the energy of grace through the palms of their hands, placing the energy into etheric bodies of those they want to heal. It has been a very long time since grace has been used here on your planet. This is a space of experimentation. Even the ancient peoples, who you consider to be more enlightened than modern-day man, even they did not have access to the energy of grace. A wave of grace was not originally planned for Earth. It was thought by Source that the healing could occur without it. But it began to become evident that it was not possible to clear all karmic patterning before the shift of your planet into the new wave of Earth. Through the Elohim heart, we wish this for you. We heard your request and your prayers for forgiveness. We heard cries for love, and we responded. Take care upon the challenge and be the pioneers of grace. We are beyond color. We vibrate at a level that is beyond what you can see with your eyes. We contain all colors, yet we are beyond what you know on Earth. There is a frequency that you can align with that is like a midway station between us. Breathe in the energy of ultraviolet. See this color flooding the auric field. This will take you up very quickly through the dimensions, and it will bring you to a level where you can communicate with us. Please be wary at first when you use this in your meditation, this tool that we give today, and make sure you use the opposite red to ground your base and your root after your meditation. Mic dropped? Okay, I'll stop and wait and make sure that everyone can hear me. Feels like a Verizon commercial when I stop in the middle of channeling, and I hope you can hear? Okay, don't scare me like that, Megan. Let's get back. Ultraviolet will very quickly pull you out from the physicalness of your body. Many of you find staying in physical forms a very hard thing to do at this stage of your development, especially mediums and channels, and those of you listening today. So practice this initially with some caution. The creative process should always be inside the body. You are all the Elohim. You are the creative force of this universe. Take a deep breath and know this in the very cells of your body. The game of Earth was to choose negativity over positivity. And at first this was a game and you did it for fun. However, you have played the game so long that you have taken it to be a reality. It is habitual to choose negativity over positivity. You are addicted to pain over forgiveness. There is no beliefs in your systems that says God will grace you. With the birth of the physical body of humanity, a program was inserted into the DNA, and this program was one of sin, one of wrong, one of good or bad. And every human being on this planet is programmed with this base belief that they are sinners. A wave of grace will sweep through this karmic patterning if you allow this. Will you allow this? All time is occurring in one space. Every one of you has a future being. And the energy of this being you are integrating into your physical being. You are pulling future realities into your now moment. In some ways, you have already walked the path back to source. In some ways, you are retracing your own steps. This return to source goes on in every single second and moment. There are cycles within cycles, and every one of you is distanced from the source, and you have also returned home. In this limited reality of your human existence, it appears as if you still have a long way to go, but that is not so. That is only your fear. As this wave of grace sweeps your planet, you will receive momentary glimpses into the aspect of self that has already found their way home. And in these moments, you will feel bliss in your physical body. These moments will increase. The length of the experience will increase. And then you will realize that there are two aspects to self. One that is still waking and walking the path home, and one who has already arrived. These concepts are very difficult for you to understand within your limited human minds. There are many yous, if you will, living in many time frames, overlapping, concurrent with each other. Many dimensions, all in the same now moment. The planet that you live on will not change, but you will. What will change is your collective consciousness. You will know through the vibrations in the cells of your body that you are God, that there's no separation between you and your outside reality. You will see consciousness everywhere, and within this new shift in consciousness, many things will change on your planet, and you will see through a clearer lens. The energy of New Earth is one of non-judgment. If you look upon your world and want it to change, then this is a form of judgment. New Earth is not a future possibility. It is in the now moment. Little by little, you will remove the sleepiness of your forgetfulness, of your amnesia, and then you will see that new planet is already here. New Earth is here, and we breathe love into your bodies now. Go in grace. Okay, that's all of that long teaching. I apologize for the length of it. There was just so much that I really needed to get in today. Now I'm going to see who's waiting in line, because this is part 2 of the class, and we still have a good 30 more minutes to take your questions and to delve even more deeply. I'm glad that you really connected with it. Okay, let me pull up and see if anyone's waiting to get on screen, because now is that time to get on screen if you are waiting. I don't see any raised hands yet. Oh, I see 1 and 2. Okay, good. Let us take Robin on screen. And while she's doing that, I'll start looking through your questions. First question, what is the name of my Elohim aspect? Your Elohim aspect, Audra just said, we have 155,000 names and 367. Which would you prefer? Sorry, Elohim are quite simply a little snarky at times. The reason why she answered in this regard is that there's not one name. You remember when they were discussing that there are many overlapping aspects of your divinity? That's what's going on. She said, if you wish, you can connect with Aurora. I'm glad she threw you a bone. Goodness gracious. I'll take Robin now.
Hi, Pamela.
Hi, beautiful. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. This has been the best class ever. I just wanted to ask, I'm still not, I think I'm channeling, but it's not very strong. So I just wanted to find out how to better connect, although they did give some tips, so I definitely will start that. But I know you've told me that I'm Lyran before, and I feel that strongly. So I just want to know how to better connect or increase my channeling ability.
The Lyran feline beings around you are saying it is an aspect of channeling of which you choose to write and speak. When you merge your writing and your speaking, When what you write is exactly what you would speak, and when what you speak is exactly what you would write, then all of your clairs will become more in focus, for this is the year that you designed it as such, upon one's passing and one's birth. You should know what they're talking about.
Okay.
There's someone who passed, and then it calls upon a rebirth for you spiritually after that person's death. So there's someone who passed or will pass.
Okay.
You should know what that means, they're saying.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Do you understand their answer? They can be a little vague.
I think that we talked about this a little bit about my grandmother and passing DNA. So she's still here.
Yeah, and it's an awakening path, and they're also urging you to spend time with her right now. The Elohim don't like to say when someone's going to pass, but they are giving you strong hints. Please spend time with your grandmother and know that there's a strong passing of the DNA after that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
And remember, what you write needs to be what you speak. So when you write something, ask yourself, would I also speak that? When you speak something, ask yourself, would I also write that in one of my books? Do you follow what they're saying?
Yes.
Your channeling needs to be clear all across the board.
Okay. Okay. I have to digest that, but okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. See you soon.
No
okay.
worries. Let's take another question from Q&A. What message do Lyrans have for me at this time? From Mandolin. Access your connectivity to frequency of music and sound. And with the chanting and sound healings, this should give you further access into your abilities. From Teresa, she would love to ask if she has any outstanding soul contracts that need to be dissolved from this time. And she says her spiritual gifts are related to this time. Yeah, they nod in confirmation of your last statement. And your Lyran Feline Collective states, it is not an aspect of anything that is released. It was released through what you had assumed was a loss, and that person is now your guide. There is no separation of soulmates. Please understand this. Okay, let's take another person on screen. I'll take Manjeet Kaur. In the meantime, I'll answer a few questions. What is my spiritual purpose and gift? From Damusi. Your collective said it is the nature of compassion and acceptance within a collective awareness of frequency channeling, art channeling, and musical channeling. And this is the alignment, but there are many purposes that would align. Just choose. I'll take Manjeet now. Oh, hang on, you're muted. Now you're unmuted. You're good now. You didn't need to press anything. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, hi. How are you? I'm finally back here in America. We had 2 sessions when I was in Asia.
Yeah, you're back. Welcome back to my home.
Yeah, I wanted to check with you. How do we activate our purpose and spiritual gifts in realigning our consciousness with the alchemy?
Define the alchemy, your collective is saying. What does that mean to you? What does alchemy mean to you specifically? You are an activator, therefore you hold paths of the healer. And it's coming through mother wounds. Can you cleanse the mother wounds in order to activate your full path as a healer on this planet? It's a rhetorical question. Do you understand what they mean?
No.
Okay. Wounds in the family, from the female side, from the moms going down. What's wrong there? Go backwards into time. Go into your beliefs from childhood and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Okay.
releasing that will activate your abilities, is what they're saying.
All right.
And that's interesting because I noticed that many healers, we call this the wounded healer archetype, who comes through the alignment of the alchemist like you do, have some wounds that go through the females in your generation, and they could be conscious, they could be subconscious, but they come from childhood and past lives.
All right.
Now, do you understand?
Yeah, and how do I identify the hurts?
Ask yourself, what is the blocking emotion? You know, I was speaking with the Melchizedek today, and I know that this is like, the Melchizedek are unique to the Arcturians that come through that group that I was discussing called the Founders. and they are more of the divine masculine Arcturians, that come through. And they were talking about accessing memories, and they asked me to tell you guys to ask yourself that question: what is my deepest emotional fear, and what is my deepest emotional suffering? What emotion pretty much plagues you on a daily basis? What kind of emotion bothers you every single day? And then you can ask yourself, when is the last time I felt that? When is the first time I felt that? This is standard conquering of the human shadow. And the Melchizedek are excellent at that. For those of you who want a deeper reference point, look at my process on my website. If you Google my name, followed by Aura Alchemy, you'll see this process, and it guides you through a line of questions that help you identify that and help you release.
Mm-hmm. My next question is, how do we connect with Devin, the head of the Felines? And how do we communicate with him? Because you mentioned that just now.
Yeah, he's a little saucy. You're not always going to get like these extremely loving responses that you got from the other beings. So keep that in mind. He is an architect, which means he is very practical in the advice that he's going to give you. So when you connect to him, you need to do it more in a telepathic way. So he's not one that operates so much from here. He's telepathic, so you can connect to him from here by visualizing ultraviolet, and then put a pyramid right here and just visualize it. Close your eyes and visualize an ultraviolet pyramid, and then call him and just say, my intention is to connect to the essence of Darien.
All right.
And then he'll come, but it won't be what you think. He is incredibly saucy.
Okay. And you also mentioned about now's the time for this time mingling to happen. Okay. And when is this taking place? Is this already happening right now?
Right now.
Is that the reason why we are feeling, I don't know, I think everybody's feeling time is passing really fast.
Yes.
That before you know it, even though you're not busy, but before you know it, it's 6, it's 12, and time is just like passing like water, just this feeling of there's no more tracking of time anymore.
Absolutely. That is absolutely why that's occurring.
All right. I also wanted to check with you, what is my purpose moving across from Asia to Los Angeles? What's my purpose and mission here? I'm just confused. I'm bored. I'm looking for something to hold on to. And
now you have Darien. He says there is no such thing as boredom. It is a product of your own mind, and it does not exist unless you allow it to be a pervasive force. When you are bored, you simply wish to create, but you are fearful of it. It is a form of transformation. And when you travel in this regard, you are transforming yourself genetically and within the engineering of the structures of your brain. There are many restructuring and realignments and resynapsing methods within your brain, which activate your heart center and cause you to trust. And the purpose of this is allowance, trust, and flow. This is why this has occurred. So we ask you simply to just trust and choose your purposes of transformation. Choose how you wish to be a catalyst to change in this environment, and understand that it is much like play. When a child plays in the sandbox, does he say, I'm going to sit here in this sandbox and I will allow the sand to construct itself, and if it does not, then I am going to be bored? No. The child comes with tools, or the child is given tools from other beings. The child will create his own structures from the sand and not be bored, for he has sand. You are in the sandbox, and I ask you to create.
All right. I have been traveling every time I go to sleep, and I feel really tired when I wake up. And I can remember some, but most of the information is lost when I am conscious.
That's normal. If it were meant, as they were saying in the channeling, if it were meant to be known, it would be known. Lyrans are really matter of fact that way, and they don't ask you to focus so much on forcing the memory of a dream, because it's very physiological to have doing anything. He said it's very physiological. If you take a medication that interferes, if you eat before bed, there are many things. If you are connected to your Wi-Fi frequencies before bed. There are many reasons why you would not remember your dreams. So this is a physiological problem, normally, not a spiritual problem.
Right. And is these dreams part of or fractions of us and the different multidimensional?
Most of the time.
And
Yeah.
all right. And
Yeah.
is this also part of?
I'm sorry, Manjeet, for the sake of allowing other people on the screen, I'm going to have to close out. Sorry.
Okay,
But you can
no problem.
put questions in the Q&A section. Much love to you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's take another question from Q&A. Are the majority of us here a part of that race? I'm assuming you mean the Haitian race? No, but you're a part of the Lyran Feline in some respect, or every human has some part of Lyran Feline within them. The Haitians are a little bit more rare, if that's the one that you mean, but they're more of the ambassadors here that are less human and more Lyran, if that's the race that you mean. Okay, how can I best realize my gifts? Your specific collective is saying through access of your voice and through practice of allowing your voice to be heard and valued. Okay, let's take another person on screen. Let's go for Paul. And in the meantime, I'll answer another question. Are there many Lyran feline beings incarnate on Earth now? Darian is still here and he's nodding. Do many of us have a Lyran feline guide? Yes, many of you here do, he says. I'll take Paul now.
Oh, it was on mute, sorry.
That's okay. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Very good. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too, sweetheart. That was a great class, by the way. You're such a great teacher.
Thank you so much.
I'm so glad you're doing these and stepping into your power, and it makes me really, really proud of you.
Thank you so much.
I'm really, really enjoying these. So I wanted to ask, how do I connect with my soul family that's here living on Earth? And if they're not as in tune like we are, how do I not convince them that I'm crazy?
You have Darian. He says, why try to convince them? If they allow this notion, then why does it harm you? Go deeper into that question. Why would it harm you? And why do you care?
Yeah, good point. Yeah.
And he says, insofar as connection, you connect to them minus judgment and minus expectations for would that not be what you wish of them and how they connect to you? You just connect based upon the level of divinity that they are expressing. For everyone has some level of divinity through which they are expressing, so you honor the place that they are in.
Okay.
In other words, you're going to be bored. That was my input, not his. He wanted me to.
I figured as much. I got that part. I'm still lost, with my whole journey here. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I know I'm supposed to help people. I know that, and I'm helping people with the hurricane relief efforts here and stuff like that using my talents. With technical, I was helping them with the database and cleaning it up and stuff yesterday. And it's going to be a long process because there's so many people that are affected. It's crazy. But I don't know how I can, that's all volunteer, right? That doesn't pay the bills. How do I pay the bills and help people at the same time, I guess is what I'm saying.
Darian states within the mission of the activator and that of the bridge of consciousness, he's identifying your two missions that are important right now at this time. Please understand that it is a level of mastery through which you simply charge for your efforts and you charge whatever your tool is, and in this case it is money. It could be different exchanges of work or play or healing, but in your case it needs to be money, so let it be money. That is your choice to decide how much you stand. And those synchronicities, those alignments of people who will help you, who will hire you, who will pay money, are there, and you're on the brink of finding them. And this would not have been the case were it not for you being in this location to help a large collective of humans in need. In other words, I'm trying to say that you're in the right place at the right time for those people to find you as you're helping them, that they will help you and that they will remember the times that you help them, during their times of need. They will return that favor and become liaisons, if you will, to activating your purpose. You will be building a client base through all this madness, in other words.
Okay. Well, I have to trust that, and I will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a unique way for it to transpire, but you're there and for a reason. You're still there. You could have gone. A job could have led you elsewhere, but you're there for a reason to activate.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I know everything is happening the way it's supposed to, and I trust that. But sometimes it's just frustrating being in the dark, you know?
It is a level of creation, he states, that you must trust, for you are the divine creator of it. You are not in the dark, you simply haven't created it yet.
Okay.
In other words, you're not shut off. You never are.
It feels like it sometimes.
It's like deciding who we want to be when we grow up. We have a different collective now, more playful, feminine collective of Lyrans, and they're saying when a child says to their parents, I want to be a doctor or a fireman or an ice skater or an artist, the child doesn't say, I want to be a computer graphics designer. The child doesn't say, I want to be an IT programmer or a game designer. The child doesn't say these things. The child says, I want to play a role. What role do you want to play? Go backwards a bit.
Okay. Okay.
And then you'll know. You'll get it.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I love you. Hey, if you haven't found your intern yet, I'm really interested.
Eileen.
Oh, he had to sneak his face in there. I didn't even see him.
Yeah, we're almost there. We're taking our time, but yeah, that would be awesome to work with you. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay, I'll email you then.
Sounds great.
Okay. Bye. Bye, Jim. Hey, everybody. Thank you.
Bye, Paul. We'll take some more questions from Q&A. Any special messages about my life purpose? Your feminine, female, very female, Lyran Feline Collective. She says it's the nature of unconditional acceptance and radical acceptance. Oh, radical acceptance is really powerful. I do have a video about it on my YouTube under the spiritual development playlist. There's another teacher that I really highly respect who has an even better video. His name is Matt Kahn. So you can YouTube his channel and look up radical acceptance or look at mine. But radical acceptance means that you are here to speak truth, catalyze others into accepting and releasing judgments. So that's definitely falling through with your mission of Bridge of Consciousness as well. A lot of you here have one of those, have that as a mission, the Bridge of Consciousness mission. Another question, would you please explain what it means to have an angelic nature? It just means that through some level of your divinity, you've gone through more of your karmic cycles than most, and you came here without the nature of karmic cycles from which you learn. But when you go through a karmic cycle, you basically are doing it to benefit other people, not always yourself. I have tons of karmic cycles that I'm going through, but I do it as a way to transmute humanity. I'm not necessarily doing it for my higher self at this point. So this is the lineage of Lyrans that come through that earthlings are calling earth angels. So for that perspective, we learn, but it's very unique. It's not incredibly catalyzing, and earth angels can go through immense periods of trauma and just kind of wake up from it and go, oh yeah, really? Okay. So in other words, if you feel really, really strong, if you've gone through a lot and you can pick yourself up really easily and learn and grow and expand without formulating an attachment to emotional suffering, chances are you're coming through that lineage. Many of you are. Let's take a live person. Let's go through Filame. Let's see. I'll look for another question in the meantime. Does everyone here have Lyran feline origins? Yeah, everyone here does, or they wouldn't have found this class. I'll take you
Yeah.
now.
Hi, Pamela.
Hey, how are you?
Hi. Good. I'm your intern from Australasia, just so you know. Putting my hand up.
All of you are my interns now. This is hilarious.
Well, my question, I think I'm quite called to your teachings, right? And this webinar, why am I here? Because there is a reason for me being here, and I'm trying to figure out if that's part of my mission to be this involved in this.
I feel like you're trying to activate the Earth Angel purpose. You're activating the healer alignment. You're activating this knowledge actually carries a lot of activated information that was coming through my voice. And basically speaking, listen to it, not only are they going to get a certain notion of, oh my goodness, this is true for me, which awakens you in a way, aligns you to your gifts. I too have the purpose of the activator, so I'm activating other activators to be able to stand in their purpose. So those codes come through my vocal energies. So that's one reason.
Well, in time, is it one of my missions to help activate others as well in time when I start learning what I'm meant to
Not
do?
in time. It needs to be as soon as you're ready, which could be tomorrow or whenever you believe. So activation does not require modalities. It does not require you to feel fully confident in your abilities. It does not require modalities. Like I said, it happens by its nature. I don't attempt to activate. It just happens.
Yeah, I think confidence is probably my biggest stumbling block, and I'm always worried, do I have enough guides backing me up, in my mission?
You are those guides, but you don't need the guides backing you up. Here's the thing, you don't need confidence to be an activator. Every single time I step on a stage or I'm in front of a camera, but particularly in person when I'm activating and teaching, every single time I don't have confidence. Every single time I say, what the hell am I doing here? Every single time I almost go into a breakdown with anxiety and panic attacks and stage fright. It's gotten significantly better, but it took several years. But every single time I go, oh, am I really ready to teach what I'm going to teach? And what do? I get out of my own way and I teach. So get out of your own way. Confidence is not necessary. Inspiration is definitely necessary. But courage is not necessary. Motivation is not necessary.
That's all good. That's all good. I'm going to leave time for other people. I've got one small question because we're going to talk this week, so I'm really excited about that. But the question I have is, am I all Lyran, or do I have a bit of reptilian in me, or like, are they dominant? Is it about dominant parts and smaller fractals, or am I fully Lyran? And what dominant race is it?
Primarily Hyadian. I'm not seeing any reptilian aspect in you, but it is primarily Hyadian and a little bit of Syrian and branch offs in that direction as well through the Hathor and Magdalene soul groups.
Okay, so I can go and Google them. Thank you. I want to leave time for other people, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll talk to you this week.
Okay, let's take more questions from Ruby. Do Lyrans have to keep up with their world's vibrations too, like how we are? And what would they do to keep it up? What would they do at times when they can't keep up vibrationally? In their particular system, they're already evolved. So on the Hyades, in most of the areas of the Pleiades, they've already gone through the universal games. It's only whenever they become hybrids and incarnate in as ambassadors and helpers for humans that they have to work on keeping their vibrations up. So basically speaking, in other higher dimensions, no, they do not. When they incarnate here, yes, they do, and yes, you do. So they don't, the question is kind of non-applicable where they are, if you know what I mean. But insofar as keeping up vibrations when you are a Lyran feline hybrid here on Earth, it's all about choice in the moment and deciding how you're going to filter your perceptions. And not choosing that something would be good or bad is incredibly appropriate to keeping vibrations higher. Choosing non-dualistic vibrations, neutrality and peace and unity. And then we have one more person waiting, and that would be Claudia. And I'll take her whenever she's ready while answering another question. Helena asks, what is my spiritual purpose and work in my connection with the felines? And do I have a strong connection with them? Yes, you do. And the purpose is one of that, of transformation and alchemy. So that's alchemizing the dark with the light, you know, releasing duality. Back to that. You guys have a lot in common. Most of you have those purposes. Catherine asks, how about Aldebaran? Is that one of the races that come through the feline? I think you're talking about, it's not exactly spelled what I think it is. And maybe you're talking about Aldarian. Is that what you mean? If yes, if so, then yes. Aldebaran is more Pleiadian, more from the Procyonia race, and Aldarian is more from the Lyran Feline. So I'm just trying to clarify because that can be confusing. What type of Lyran Feline am I? Loco Cut ask. That would be the Pascat. Are any of the Lyran races known as Egyptian warriors? Yes, particularly the Hathors and the Ra'ans, otherwise known as Solarians. And Sarians is what Darian calls them. I see beings with the appearance of painted patterns over their faces. That could also be the Haitians. We have that same, especially the pyramid shapes like right here. Yes, those are Lyrans. Yes, that is one of your guides. I guess Claudia isn't ready to come on screen, so I'll keep taking more questions. What do the Lyran felines have to say about moving beyond empathy, moving beyond empathing other people's energy? Would that be what a state of grace consists of? They're giving me a yes, but feeling an answer in my heart center. So collectively now they're all speaking. And they're stating, there will be times when you must transmute other people's energy. Yeah, Claudia, whenever she wants to come on screen, she's welcome to come. I've been waiting for a bit, so if she wants to come, I'm ready. But to answer Hasna's question, initially they're claiming that you will need to stand in a space of compassion, for compassion is the foundation of transmutation, which leads to grace. So it is like holding a space. Compassion is the bridge of consciousness for forgiveness to occur. It's a foundation of forgiveness, and then forgiveness will eventually lead to grace. It goes in that order, according to the Lyran felines. How many fractures of starseeds do I have? Eva, we don't have time to count that. I'm kidding, you have 8. I just thought I would mess with you for a minute because it's fun. As a QHHD practitioner, what kind of gifts or assistance can I receive from Lyrans? The gift of alchemy and transmutation and holding a space of compassion and acceptance, the gift of non-judgment, to be able to observe what you are seeing in the Akashic records without identifying it as harm or bad or good or evil. Truth, integrity, and honesty question for the Lyran feline and Haitian collective. What is important in respect to truth, integrity, and honesty for those humans with Haitian origins? Personal context question, if time to read. I have a strong Haitian lineage and connection with a higher soul, a higher level soulmate, also within this lineage. There is a deep caring and love and longing to be near each other in the same way. A few years after meeting, we both married and are fulfilling an important purpose there in our marriages. How can I and we let go of guilt for being an email contact that no one knows about? I am past this duality mindset, but the conditioned guilt slightly lingers. Is what I'm doing, keeping secret contact here, wrong? There is no traditional love affair presently, but the pull to keep contact and tabs on each other is far too strong to ignore. Haitians, if you feel drawn, please help me transcend this feeling. Oh no, you have Darian. I'm going to ask him to be gentle on you because I'm going to keep your name anonymous because you know who you are. Be gentle on her. he says, it is within the nature and confines of soul contracts. What would be bad about simply telling all involved that you are doing this? Then you simply do this, and then it simply is. And then you face the fear of those ramifications. And he would tell his wife, and you would tell your husband, and you would then communicate as you wish, and guilt would dissipate, for you would not fear punishment any longer, and let those pieces fall as they will. This is the nature of the Haitian ethical bloodline. You're honest without fear of repercussions or punishments. You just are honest. There is nothing to be hidden, and it can be very detrimental to your health and to your bodies to hide these things. Simply tell all involved. That was a hard answer. You heard him. I was going to say you heard the man, but you heard the cat. Whatever the case is. Okay. You stated in your channeling that Lyrans on Earth have a hard time absorbing nutrients. Yes, they do. Is that true for me? Yeah, it's true for me too. What you do is you pay attention to your body. There are times when your body will say, I don't want a lot of fiber. You know, there are times when your body will say, I want nothing but greens and nothing but fruits. Lyrans are the strangest, most picky eaters. There are times when we want to eat absolute crap, and there are times when we don't want to eat at all. There are times when we're vegetarian, vegan, fruitarian. We've tried every single thing on the planet because human food is not adequate for the Lyran system. So this leads me to going in a different direction. You cannot absorb aspartame. You cannot absorb any of the artificial flavors that are hidden processing ingredients in most boxed, canned, or bagged foods. It's something you should know. Fresh and raw and organic, people, and nothing processed. I know that from personal experience, but it's so yummy, so I keep eating it, and it's just not good. I cannot process it. We can take Ruby now, whenever she's ready.
Hey, Pamela.
Hi, how are you?
Okay, I'm good. My guides are working really hard to put me like here on this lesson, you know, irregardless of my resistance and all that. So, but anyway, so I'm here. So I have actually two questions. One is that since the Lion Gate has opened, I actually felt sensation through my brain, like the back of my brain, like a rod actually just plunged in, and then through my spine and all that things, or else it would felt like wherever I'm out, it would felt like fingers are through my skull and massaging my brains. Other than that, is my third eye are pulsating, and I'm doing a lot of chakra clearing and all that. So I actually want to ask for confirmation from you is that, you know, since the gate has been opened, I have been shown that right now I've been shown on another higher calling, which is like in a very vague way, which is that I have a purpose now to actually work with other people, higher self, through my artistic side, which I'm not sure what art is it. And another one is, which is obviously the my work through educating others. And yeah, so I actually want confirmation for that. And if there's anything else that, you know, why they want me so much to be like onto this class. Yeah.
It is the activation of dormant DNA so that you give yourself permission to release the codes of shame. That's what this class is about for you. To stand in your purpose without perceiving through the filter of taking in shame from how others view you and from how you view yourself. So it does not matter which art, it does not matter which modality, it does not matter how you activate and catalyze others, but those are the purposes. How you choose to do it in the alignment is correct. There is no wrong answer in that, as long as you are doing it.
I just have to just do it and not consider so much about the consequences and things like that.
Right, the release of the guilt and the shame and how you will be perceived by others and how you will explain yourself to others, particularly in your culture, is what they're saying, and in the restrictions therefrom. You just do. Like as Darian was saying earlier, telling the other person to let the dominoes fall where they may. You just move. Lyrans are about motion and action and getting stuff done. We like to manifest by feeling and then really clarifying what we want and then relentlessly working ourselves towards that action. And that's why we are manifestors, because we're like, we're not going to give up. This is our dream, darn it, and we're going to do it now. There's no wrong. There's no off course. It's like, this is it.
Sounds good. Okay, that's good. Okay, another question, because right now I'm hearing or seeing a lot of people are just really confused about their life purpose. And, you know, in the context of talking about life purpose right now, I'm just wondering, is there any difference in words like soul agreements and soul contracts? And what's the difference? Especially these two words, just, they kind of hold the same meaning, but yet not, you know? So in the words agreements and contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Some people actually...
Yeah. Darian again, and he states, an agreement is simply something that you have. Everyone has contracts that they will work through at some point and then they release them. You are never bound with a contract. You are divine sovereign beings. So there is no such thing as binding. It can be fear-based when humans believe in fear-based teachings. With agreements, you simply understand that you are not bound, that it is a purpose. Life purpose is more congruent with the term soul agreement than it would be soul contract. The term contract is an implication of which you would feel bound, even though there is no truth in that, with the exception of human definition. And it does not serve you to believe you would be bound.
Mm. Okay, that's good. Thank you so much.
It's just like straight to the punch, right? I know.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take another. Can you explain the astrological comparison with the Leo sun sign versus the Lyran feline characteristics? Not really. I'm not really an astrologist, guys. And actually, most Lyrans aren't really caught up in the astrology except for when Lionsgate comes around. And that's just a portal that comes around at a certain time. And that's really the only time that they ever talk to me about astrological occurrences or connections to astrology. There are some Lyrans that created Advaita Vedanta as well as Vedic astrology, and there's some belief systems that align with, you know, some of these Lyran feline races, but not all of them. You have told me that I'm of the Elohim from the Lemurian origins. I am also a blueprinter, encoder, and a council member. Can you explain how I'm both? You have Darian, and he says, for the same reasons that your soul and its fractals are operating simultaneously and congruently together for a unity in purpose, each of those fragments of you will represent a certain expression. Okay, guys, we're gonna have to go. It's time for me to go take care of my family and take care of myself as well and eat some lovely dinner, rest for the weekend. It was a really great class. I'm sorry that, or at least from my perspective of being with you, you were really great listeners. So for me, it was a lovely experience, and I'm really sorry that I couldn't get to all the questions, but I'm hoping that it was covered in the class material. And if not, maybe there should be a part 2. You're welcome to suggest that to us. If you still feel that you're wanting more, the Lyran Felines can teach and teach and teach, believe me. Much love to you. I'll let management in here. Namaste.